Hey, how's it going, everybody? Scott Spreitzer here with Doug Upstone. We are DocSports.com, and this is the marquee matchup, and it sure is. No lie about that. We got Georgia taking on Alabama this week in Atlanta. Indoors SEC title game, just as most had predicted before the season began, that it would be these two teams going at it, although I don't think too many people thought that Alabama needed a 97-yard touchdown drive in the game's final minute to get here, but they did. But give them full credit for getting the job done when needed. We're going to jump into this game. We're going to talk the numbers, where they stand now, where they were last week, the week before, all that good stuff. But you want to talk some good numbers, check these out. Just $325 gets the rest of the football season, college and pro, from any DocSports.com capper. That would be me, that would be Doug Upstone, anybody else on the site. Now, it's normally a monthly price, but this means you're going to get college football. You can jump on board right now. You'll get this weekend's games. You'll get every single game that capper gives out the rest of the season, through the bowls, through the playoffs, through the college football championship, the rest of the NFL season, still several weeks to go, the playoffs, the Super Bowl, which is in February, all for one flat price of $325. Rest of the college and pro football season, including the postseasons. And Doug, we both had real nice runs last year to close. I went 8-1 in the bowls. 20-6 football run to close last year between college and pro football, the playoffs, the Super Bowl, all that good stuff. So we're hoping to rack it up and do it again. I know you did very well last year to wrap things up yourself.
Yeah, I sure did, Scott. The exact numbers elude me as we're talking here, but I know that this conference championships, I believe, obviously there wasn't as many last year, but I believe I went 3-1 in those. And the number that comes to mind is 10-4 for the bowl games. I don't hold me to that, but it's close. Okay, from that standpoint. So yes, very excited. For the end of the college football season is with the bowl games and everything, and looking to get hot again to finish the NFL season in the right form. We're into December now, so now's the time to make a big final push, and I'm looking forward to trying to make it happen here, Scott.
And I believe you will, and I can vouch for Doug. I don't have his exact numbers, but it was damn hot, and I'll just leave it at that. Listen, I want to talk about the number in this Georgia-Alabama game because it has changed quite a bit, as you know, and Georgia opened a 3-point favorite at a couple of books here in Las Vegas. They went live with the possible matchup a few weeks ago. It has come to fruition, the matchup. But in the last week to 2 weeks, it's gone all the way up, well, basically off of last week, to 6.5, Doug. We went 3,648 days between Michigan wins over Ohio State. We have gone more than 2,250 days since Alabama was an underdog. They were a 1.5-point dog to Georgia back in October of 2015. Bama won 38-10. Doug, this is the most points that Bama has received in 13 years. Your first thoughts on this SEC title game?
Yeah, well, and I'll take it even a step further. So that's the longest streak in terms of games, since 1978. Okay, 92, I think 92 or 93, or 92 games it is. Now, here's one other part, that the tail that goes along with that is that prior to that, Alabama also has the second longest streak, which is 72 games. So since 2009, Alabama has been an underdog twice.
It's just amazing.
So the first thought I have is, I wonder where Nick Saban has his underdog speech at. I'm thinking it's like behind in the back of a drawer, like behind all kinds of pens and pencils and all kinds of other stuff back there, to where he can pull it out, because nobody even knows what it is. Okay, with how things have gone with that. But that number, that's an interesting one. That's for sure. Up to 6.5. Is it justified? I certainly think you can make the case that it is. I mean, look at this team that Georgia has. I mean, this is going to be, if it plays out and Georgia wins the championship, I mean, this is arguably, at least in recent history, the best defense we've seen in some time.
Yeah.
Giving up 6.9 points per game. I mean, that's absurd. And those 6.9 points per game, the teams that they have faced have averaged 27.5 points per game. So it's not like it's like they're playing just all bad teams who can't score. They're number one in total defense. They're number one in yards per play. And this number, just when I saw this, it blew me away. Scott, 3.7 yards per play. Okay. I mean, that's just nuts. And, they've only given up as many as 17 points once, and that was against Tennessee with a little over 3 minutes to go. They gave up a touchdown when they were ahead 41-10. Okay. So
Sure.
this is a historic defense going up again, and with I'm going to say, a very good offense, not exceptional, but a very good offense with a good quarterback, certainly not an NFL quarterback. It more reminds me, and I know we've talked about this before, it reminds me of the earlier Alabama teams, okay, that won championships, that, they were complete teams, defensive oriented, ran the ball, okay, did all those types of things. And so it's kind of contrary to how football is being played. But if you think of Kirby Smart, their coach, to me, this is the perfect team that fits his personality. Okay, all of those
Absolutely.
aspects. So what do you think about Georgia? What do you think about Alabama, Scott?
Well, first of all, I have to admit and say that something I was texting back and forth with another capper on Saturday as Georgia was pummeling Georgia Tech, Friday or Saturday, whatever that was. And I was saying, I think I used Georgia two, maybe three times this year. What in the world was wrong with me? To have used them for betting purposes only two or three times this year. They just had their way for the most part. Yeah, my thoughts, as you mentioned, just to kind of follow up on what you said about that defense. I mean, as everybody else has reported already, I'm not breaking news here, but it's the first time in 42 years that we have a defense, Georgia's, that held all opponents to 17 points or less. First time since the Texas Longhorns in '79. And again, I'm not breaking any news. That's all over the internet, and you can find that. But the defense is going to have to now face a Bama offensive line that gave up 7 sacks last week to Auburn. That might be a blessing in disguise. I know Nick Saban didn't want that game to go that way and almost lose and need some luck with that clock, with the Georgia ball carrier towards the end of the game, all that kind of stuff that played into his favor, gave him some extra seconds, but it might be a blessing in disguise. It exposed some issues up front, and I think it did more good for Alabama than if they would have won 38-14 last week, because they're going to have to shore up pass protection up front against this outstanding Georgia defensive line. Okay, having said that, I'm going to switch gears now and I'm going to play devil's advocate against Georgia for Alabama. So just remember, this is, the devil made me do this, all right? Who have the Bulldogs played? Since opening with a 10-3 win over Clemson, and we saw how poorly Clemson's offense played for most of the first half of the season with an overvalued quarterback, they won that game 10-3. They played Georgia Tech 3-9, Charleston Southern, who cares? Tennessee 7-5, big whoops. Mizzou 6-6, Florida, they just fired their head coach Dan Mullen. Auburn 6-6, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, UAB. Two best teams that they played were Kentucky and Arkansas, I guess, according to my power ratings. But by the way, they played 4 teams who rated 18th through 30th. Again, my power ratings. Average rating of their other 8 opponents, throwing Charleston Southern out of the mix, was around 75th, according again to my power rankings. Now, Alabama played Mercer, they played New Mexico State, they played Southern Miss, but their other 9 opponents' average rating in my power ratings was right around 25th, give or take. So you're talking about a team that basically played teams ranked, on average 60 and higher against a team that played on average, top 25 opponents, other than Mercer, New Mexico State, and Southern Miss. So there's my devil's advocate argument as to why this line is too high, if you believe it is. The odds makers don't make a lot of mistakes. And for that to go from 3 to 3.5 was fine a couple of weeks ago, and then shoot to 6.5 because Alabama struggled against Auburn, boy, that just seems like a huge move. Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, Doug, the Tide have the better quarterback. Got the better coach. You got to give it to Saban, no matter who he matches up with. And that's no shot against the coaching staff from Georgia. They're elite. There's no doubt about it. But Saban is elite +1, right? So again, that 3.5-point increase feels a little strange. I mean, the eye test says Georgia covers this number. If you're a math guy, if you're a power rating guy, you're on Bama in this one. It's a really tough call, and I'm not going to give it to you quite yet. I want to hear more of your thoughts.
Yeah, the one thing I look at Alabama recently, and there's two things that I thought of in watching the end of that game, and I end up looking this up. If you include the sacks so in the month of November, let's throw out New Mexico State. Okay,
Mm,
in the month of November, Alabama, the three teams they have played, when when you take out the sacks, because rushing yards in college football, or sacks go to rushing yards in college football as opposed to passing in the
sure.
pros, they're averaging 1.8 yards per carry in the month of November. Okay. I don't care how you add that up. That's awful. Okay. And that now they lost arguably their best running back. Okay. With a hamstring injury. So this is a
Mm,
team that it's got some issues. And one of the most interesting things, and maybe I'm reading something into this that's just way out there. Okay. But when Nick Saban was asked after the game what he thought about his team, okay, winning the game against Auburn, normally, he's hemming and hawing, and he's kind of, well, I don't want to swear here, but he's not happy with his team, and he has something to say that alludes
mm,
to something else. But instead, what he said this time, I told my team to go out there and have fun. He said, let's just play. Let's just play our game. We'll be
mm,
fine if we just play our game. And he doesn't ever say that. And in typical coach speak, okay, what that means is I don't have my team isn't as good, okay, as I would like it to be. And so I have to kind of coddle and push them along, okay? Whereas if this team was loaded like I've had before, if we played a game like that, we would have practice after the game. Forget waiting till Sunday or Monday. We'd have it right then. So from that standpoint, I think well, I mean, not that he shouldn't know, but I think he does know that he has some weaknesses. And his strengths that Alabama has been able to overcome the weaknesses in certain games. I mean, let's face it, fortunate to beat Florida. Okay, no question about that. This is still a very good team that deserves to be in the top four, but in theory, it's not in the class of Georgia. But to your point, which I 100% agree with, better quarterback and better coach. Okay. So I think that levels the playing field here. So myself, I'm going to look at this game. 6.5 is seems like almost, it does seem high, but it also makes it almost the perfect number. Okay. Because you
mm.
could see Alabama, or you could just see Georgia winning by 7, and you could see them winning by 6. Okay. In either case. So I'm going to I'm going to take the points for the free pick, and this is just a lean, but I'm going to take the points with Alabama on this one, thinking that they can overcome some adversity. And the key to me for them, they need to grab an early lead. Okay, they need to hit some big plays in the passing game that either set up touchdowns or gets them into position to score touchdowns. And if they could keep the pressure on Georgia going into the fourth quarter with a lead, now it gets interesting. So just a slight lean for me with the Crimson Tide, Scott.
Well, I'll tell you what, since you've got the side, I'm going to go total then, and I'm going to say under 49 and a half. And I know there's always that chance where you get two extremely talented football teams on both sides of the football, where you end up with a 27-24 game, which feels like a hard fought, not so high output of an offensive battle. Yet it goes over 49 and a half. But I don't think that's going to happen. I do think it's going to be first team to 20, first team to 23 type of thing wins this game. I really do. So, with that being the case, and again, we talked about both defenses. Georgia is having a historic season as far as their defense is concerned. Alabama's defense is pretty darn good. Their defense, by the way, which we didn't mention this. I don't think you did. I didn't. But Bama's
Yeah.
defense held 7 of its opponents to their season lows in yardage. So this might not be a typical Alabama national championship level team, but man, they're darn good on especially on defense. So I'm going to say under 49 and a half. Doug is saying take the points there. And I'll just tell people this. Before last week's games, my power rating had Georgia 4 points better than Bama on a neutral field. It takes a lot for me to go 3 points away from my power rating based on one game. And I've said this many times over the years, the greatest tool I was ever taught and put into my handicapping when it comes to college football was back in the early to mid 90s when a pro bettor by the name of Sean Hess, who's about 81, 82 years old now, going on about 40, sat down and told me, learn to make power ratings and numbers a week in advance. And of course, now we hear about advanced lines in the NFL from different casinos, all that stuff. That's what I did. And it's, you know what it does? It doesn't give you as many plays to play on as it does saving you from having losing plays. That's what it does, is it saves you. And so what it also does, basically in a nutshell, when you make your lines in advance, a week in advance, it keeps you from getting caught up in teams kind of swaying away from their norm. So if a team comes out, has a great game above normal or a horrible game below normal, you don't get too caught up in that because it's a season-long process. And that's what it's done for me. So again, before Alabama went right to the wire with Auburn, Georgia was 4 points better than Alabama for me on a neutral field. So you can tell kind of where I'm leaning there too. But again, the total, I'll say under 49.5. And Doug, any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make, Scott, and it's one that I completely agree with because let's face it, when we look at the numbers on the weekend, now you're doing yours a week in advance. I do mine usually like on Monday and Tuesday nights. Is put on my power ratings together. I'll look at the lines and stuff like that and have some brief thoughts or make some brief notes. But then I go and do the power ratings, and some of the games I thought, oh, this line's way off, and all of a sudden I do the power ratings and it's exactly on. And so it changes your perspective. So yeah, and in this business, let's face it, some of the bets you don't make are the ones that save you money. Okay, and that's a big part of doing this for a living. And for anybody that bets, if you can save yourself some money by not making bad bets, you're better off. So yeah, ready to go from that standpoint.
And here's something real cool. We have the $60 free account. Everybody sees the banner at the top of the video. And if you click on the link below the video, you can get yourself set up for that free $60 account if you're not yet a member at DocSports.com. Then you get to use those free $60 on any of Doug's daily packages, any of my daily packages, anybody else at DocSports.com. So let's say if you're new, you want to do that, you jump on board, you get that free $60 account, then you make up your mind, now, do I want to be with these guys or not? And then you can go get the $325 package for the rest of the college and pro football season, again, if you wish. Nobody's twisted any arms. But again, go over there and check it out if you want to jump on board. We certainly work our butts off, whether the games land in the W column or the L column. The work is still there, man, and put in each and every day and each and every week. Also, check out our basketball plays daily, the NHL, all that good stuff. All right, there you got it. Doug says opinion on the Alabama Crimson Tide plus the points. I'm saying under 49.5 for Doug Upstone. For the rest of DocSports.com, I'm Scott Spreitzer. Let's put them in the win column, everybody.